This is where someone threw an egg at my dad's car. This is where my dad sideswiped a building. This is where my dad sideswiped a pole. My dad bought this car in 1991 when it was brand new, and he took immaculate care of this car until he got into drugs, alcohol, and rock and roll and racing it, street racing it. So needless to say, the car took a beating. Since it's been in my possession for the last, 12, 13 years, solely my possession, I've done everything I can to keep it well maintained and garage kept. I've done a tremendous amount of work to the interior, as well as the engine area of the car. And I'll get into that in a different video, but I've basically left the exterior as the last part. I have changed out the front spoiler, I have changed out the hood, and I've switched out all of the headlights, the tail lights. I've added IROC fog lights, and I've switched out all the rear lights to LED lights. The one thing that I've been putting off is just basically the paint. So for the longest time, I thought I was going to paint it the original red color. Obviously, I'd love to paint the car, but in order to get the paint job that I would want, I'm looking at spending $15,000 to $20,000 on a paint job. And I'd rather not do that. I don't have the money for that right now. I'd rather do that down the line. So for a fix for right now, just so the car looks great and it's also a fun project for me to do, I'm going to wrap it. So before I wrap the car, I have to fill in the dents and dings. It doesn't really have any dents. I mean, just a few little dents here and there, but the dings and the paint chips, the rock chips, those are prevalent throughout the entire vehicle. So that's something that I need to address before I wrap it. If I wrap the car with those dents and dings and imperfections, the wrap will magnify it. So once that wrap goes over, all of a sudden, what you didn't notice, it's like, whoa, it's a big, indentation. It's a big dent under that wrap. And I don't want to go through the trouble of wrapping the car if I'm not, setting myself up for success. So that's why I'm going through all this work. So in a nutshell, I have to sand down the imperfections, fill the little dents, fill the dings, sand the filler down, and add primer to those areas because wrap will not stick to filler or Bondo. And then I've got to do a clear coat over those primered areas because primer is a porous surface and it has a very low surface tension, and it needs to be that glossy finish like a clear coat in order for it to have the highest surface tension possible and for the wrap to have the best success rate on sticking and obviously for longevity. Now you're probably wondering why I end up painting a little bit red in the corners, and that's because if over time the wrap ever peels back or I don't get it perfectly inset into a crease, I don't want there to be gray showing on those primered areas. So I take a little quick red paint, just kind of spray it in there. So if you ever do see past that wrap, you'll see red. You won't even notice it. I'll notice it, but maybe other people won't notice it. My sister will notice it, my neighbor will notice it, but maybe it won't show up in pictures. Let's talk about the rubber eraser wheel. The rubber eraser wheel is a nightmare. This thing, it smells, the rubber gets everywhere. It's nearly impossible to clean off the residue, but it is essential for getting this sticker residue off or any kind of glue residue off of the vehicle. So the one area that I had to use that annoying rubber wheel on was that side trim. So back in the 90s and 80s, I guess they put this like rubber piece of trim on the car, and it almost looked like it's part of the style, but it's actually not. You can get these cheap ass rubber things on Amazon. So I peeled that back and I'm left with all of this excess glue. So I've got to take this rubber wheel that like plugs into my drill and just slowly go along the car. The rubber shreds so much, this eraser wheel shreds so much, that I keep having to stop what I'm doing, clean up the area, and reassess what exactly I'm erasing. So you'll see me just kind of repeat that process over and over again. The rubber wheel does get hot, so you have to be really careful. If you use it on, say, a bumper or any kind of plastic on the car, there is a solid chance, if you're not paying attention, that you'll burn right through that rubber. I did that on my Mustang, on my brand new bumper, and I had to fill in that area with Bondo. That's how bad it was. So, you know, you learn a lot of lessons doing these things. Once all that rubber crap is gone, you know, I use an air compressor to blow it, I do a water spray, I wash the car. Once that's all gone and you've got zero residue, you can actually start filling in the little dents and dings. I have Bondo, and I plan on using the Bondo for like the slightly larger dings and dents on the car, which is not that many, but it's full of rock chips, like tons of rock chips. The whole car's covered in rock chips. So I got this glazing and spot putty here. It caught my eye because it's purple packaging, and you know, it just looks really nice. It looks high-end. It kind of looked like makeup, and I am a girl. So I'm gonna try this today, and tomorrow I'll see how it worked and if I should continue using it, but I'm excited about this. So let's get to it. Do not use near heat. Does the sun count? With all these dings on the door, it looks like my dad probably just went around like door dinging everybody that he parked next to. Like the entire side of the doors got no paint on it. Beware, this Camaro parks next to you. You're getting dinged. If it's like 1993 in Glendale. Alright, so I think the key to this stuff is just to like dot it into the crack and wait for it to dry and then sand over the area. So that's going to be my tactic for the whole car. Let's go. Alright, so that was the worst possible advice I could give myself. Worst idea ever. If I had done that throughout the whole car, I would be laying in Forest Lawn Cemetery right now. So it dries so fast and so hard, you really have to get it as flush with the car as possible and just do multiple layers rather than leaving up like a mountain of filler that you'll have to sand down. That's impossible. So yeah, don't do that. Don't do what I thought I was gonna do, because I didn't do it. These dings that I'm filling in, my mother dropped a step stool on my car like 15 times. And she's even the one that said to me, "Oh, Nina, where'd these dings come from? I don't remember seeing them." So she, you know, he who dealt it, or he who smelt it, dealt it. My mom was trying to like take away from the fact that she's the one that created these dings by acting like she'd never seen them before. Years down the line, she's like, "Yeah, I dropped my stepladder on your car." Cool. Yeah, well, let me drop a stepladder on your car and see how you like it. But she drives my car, so that can't happen. The bumper is where you have to be particularly careful. If you stand too far down on the bumper, I mean, it's plastic. You're gonna ruin it. And I definitely didn't want to do that. But again, like, I learned from my experience with the Mustang, so I went at this with a little bit more finesse and a little bit more patience. Bumper actually had all these hairline cracks all over it. So it was like the clear coat just kind of like separated a little bit. And I did a test piece, so I put the wrap on these little fine lines because I thought there's no way they'll show. And sure enough, once that wrap was on, it looked like I had put wrap over like hair. So I pulled the wrap off and I just did a light hand sanding, taking down all those little tiny cracks and crevices. I reapplied the wrap, gone. So that was an easy remedy for the bumper. Back when my dad first bought the car, the story goes, who knows if it's true, is that he was just innocently minding his own business, driving in a neighborhood, and some kid came out their window and threw an egg at his car. It all made a lot of sense when you're like 12 years old. As you grow up, you start questioning, man, that kid had some good aim. It hit like the car just perfectly. And why would a random kid throw an egg at my dad's car? And who has random eggs just hanging around? Who knows what really happened? I suspect foul play. But anyways, I've been staring at this egg mark for like 40 years. Well, 30 years. And so I was happy and kind of like nostalgically sad or melancholy to get rid of it. But, you know, out with the old bad memories and in with the new ones. So for sanding down the car, originally I was gonna, use a block sander, 600 grit, and just do the whole thing, like, really take my time. Yeah, that didn't happen. I had to actually get my power sander out. I used a 450 grit sandpaper and I sanded it down just enough where it was smooth enough to then take my 600 grit sandpaper and my sanding block. And I did have to use my hand ever so often to get into the creases and stuff, which I found out that that's not a good idea. But all in all, at the end of the process, it came out really good. You'll see later on. I've spent the whole week sanding and filling and sanding and filling and sanding and filling. So it's really important that the car is prepped properly for the wrap. It's something I learned the hard way with the Mustang. With the Mustang that I wrapped, I sanded down all the imperfections, but I didn't realize once I sanded that clear coat down, the wrap would not stick properly. So I had a lot of issues with like the wrap not fitting, not sticking in little curves and indentations in the car. So I'm taking what I learned the hard way with that car and applying it to this job. So I still have some areas to sand down and probably fill, but I am going to do a coat of red paint over the primered areas because I don't want any of the gray primer to show like in the corners of the wrap. Since it's time to actually start spraying primer and clear coat, I'm not taking any risk ruining my expensive lights and grill. This grill cost me like $300 from Screamin' Chicken. No, it was from Hawks Motorsports, not Screamin' Chicken. So remove that. These IROC fog lights, I don't even remember how much they were, but they were a pretty penny. They're like Morimoto, something like that. So I want to tape these off and make sure that nothing gets on them. They were also a pain in the butt to wire too. Other than these fog lights, everything's pretty darn easy. This little black cover I got for Christmas, it was like 60 bucks. I definitely want to protect that. I don't want to just like overspray everything. It drives me crazy when I see like primer on things that it shouldn't be on. And this is so easy to remove. Another thing that I've learned the hard way is obviously to bag and tag everything, so these little teeny, nuts and screws and bolts, I'll never remember where these went. I've lost so many in the process. And how hard is it to grab a Ziploc bag? It's not. It's really not. With this black cover remove, I can reach in and remove the obnoxious speed nuts that attach the emblem. Speed nuts are these like sharp nuts that cut into the plastic as you tighten them. They're really silly and it doesn't hold it down very well, but alas, it is what is holding this emblem. And this emblem was like $30, so I have to keep it safe. I'm gonna take the fog lights. No, not the fog lights. I've learned many lessons in life about many important things. This has got to be one of the most important lessons I've ever learned. Simple, 2 bolts on each light. They pop right out. These were not even that expensive. Again, if you're ever looking for lights for your 3rd gen Camaro and other gens actually, Screamin' Chicken is the place. They have everything and their site's easy to navigate and they have fast shipping and pretty decent pricing. The headlights are fairly easy to remove. There are these brackets, but they're kind of like hidden under the front nose area. So once you pull off these little frames with these screws, the headlights just pop out. I label everything so I'll remember which lights go where, and make sure that you don't mess with that adjusting screw on top because it's just a tedious pain in the butt to get right, especially if you don't have someone like standing there and helping you guide where like the lights are shining. If you can go your entire life and never finding yourself trying to tape a drop cloth over a 1991 Camaro hood on a windy day, just avoid it. Just say no. That was not fun. I definitely could have used some help from an able-bodied individual, but there was nobody around, so I did it myself. But the wind kept blowing it. It was like my Camaro was wearing this piece of plastic like a cape. I ended up getting it on. Obviously, I know I'm going to wrap over the hood, but I don't want to get primer and I don't want to get clear coat on the hood because I might leave it that unfinished black just for fun for a little bit. So I wanted to preserve the look of it, but I chihuahua. That was frustrating. And here it is. Everything's taped off, everything is bagged up, tagged up, and I'm ready to start actually spraying primer, then clear coat. Yeah, I can't believe I've made it this far. It's been a week worth of this mess of sand, but I know the car looks like it's in grave danger, but I have to trust the process and keep going. Alright, progress. So much fun. Thank you so much for watching.